Okay, picture this. You're driving home and suddenly you come across a fresh collision. If you've ever been in that situation, you already know just how overwhelming it is. Tires screeching, people panicking, hazards literally everywhere. But what if you are the very first person on the scene? Or worse, what if you're actually involved in it? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking how to take those incredibly chaotic, highly dangerous first few seconds and transform them into a controlled, secure zone. We're going to look at the absolutely most effective ways to protect yourself, assist the victims, and ensure you don't accidentally make a bad situation even worse.
Look, our main objective today is creating order out of chaos. When that adrenaline spikes, your brain can, and probably will, just freeze up. That's exactly why having a structured mental checklist isn't just a nice-to-have, it is absolutely vital for your survival and the survival of everyone else around you. We really don't want to rely on basic instinct here. We want to rely on solid procedure. This mental checklist is exactly what emergency responders use, and today we're building yours.
So here is our roadmap for today. First, your duty to assist. Second, immediate vehicle safety. Third, deploying the warning triangle. Fourth, managing people and calls. And finally, number 5, moving the vehicles.
All right, let's dive right into Section 1, your duty to assist.
Before we even talk about the physical steps you need to take, we really need to understand the legal reality here in Norway. The law explicitly states failure to stop and help at an accident site is a punishable offense under the Road Traffic Act. This is huge, guys. Any person, whether you're directly involved in the crash or literally just a bystander driving past, has a strict legal mandate to stop, assist, and secure that scene. It's not just a moral obligation to be a good Samaritan, it's a hard point of law. You must act. So knowing exactly how to act, completely non-negotiable.
Moving right along to Section 2, immediate vehicle safety.
Okay, so to avoid becoming a victim yourself, there's a very specific order of physical operations you have to follow before your foot even touches the pavement outside your car. Step 1, park your own vehicle so it doesn't block emergency services or create a brand new hazard and instantly hit your hazard lights. That's your first signal to the rest of the world. Step 2, and please don't skip this, put on your reflective safety vest. Now in Norway, by law, this vest must be stored within arm's reach of the driver's seat. Not buried in the trunk under a bunch of groceries, but right there within reach. Do not exit your vehicle without it on, especially at night, because passing traffic is a massive threat. Once you have it on, Step 3 is exiting safely, and Step 4 is checking for immediate dangers.
The second you're safely out of your car, rocking that reflective vest, you have to run through this immediate danger checklist. Your goal right now is to stabilize the environment before you even think about giving first aid. I know the adrenaline is going to make you want to sprint straight over to the victims, but actually, scratch that. You have to pause. Look immediately for fire risks or leaking fuel. Check above you and all around the site for downed power lines, and look closely at the crashed vehicles. Are they sitting on a slope? Is there a chance they could roll? If they might, you need to make sure the handbrake is engaged, or block the wheels if you can. You absolutely have to lock down the physical safety of the scene first.
Now for Section 3, deploying the warning triangle.
Once the immediate area is locked down, establishing a safe perimeter is your next big move. Every vehicle in Norway has to carry at least one approved warning triangle. But honestly, having it doesn't matter if you don't know exactly where to put it. You can't just toss it 10 feet behind the crashed cars and call it a day. The speed limit dictates your placement distance. So, if the road is 50 kilometers per hour or less, you need to place it 50 to 100 meters behind the accident. But if you're out on a highway where the limit is 80 to 110 kilometers per hour, you have to stretch that out to 150 to 250 meters. Why? Because you have to give drivers traveling at those highway speeds more than enough time to see it, react, and hit the brake safely.
Let's just pause on this number for a second. 250. 250 meters is a wildly long distance. To put that into perspective, it's about 2.5 football fields. That means you are going to be walking a very long way down a live, high-speed roadway to set up this warning. It is an incredibly intimidating, sometimes terrifying thing to do, especially if it's pitch black outside. This reality really hits the nail on the head as to why that reflective vest is so absolutely crucial and why you have to be so incredibly careful when placing this vital piece of gear.
Because you're walking so far, you need to know how to walk safely. Always carry the warning triangle right in front of you as you're walking. That way, the reflective surface is actively catching the headlights of any oncoming cars, giving them an early heads up. If there's a guardrail, walk behind it. Just stay as far off the shoulders humanly possible. And keep the topography in mind. If the crash is near a blind curve or sitting just over the crest of a hill, you have to place that triangle well before the bend or the hilltop. Oncoming drivers need to see your warning before the terrain blocks their view of the actual crash site.
Moving on to Section 4, Managing People and Calls.
Okay, so chaos pretty much always follows a collision, and managing the bystanders who gather around is honestly just as crucial as managing the wrecked vehicles themselves. If there are uninjured people milling around, don't just let them stand there in a state of shock. Give them something to do. Delegate. Assign someone immediately to call emergency services. In Norway, you've got 3 specific numbers to remember. 113 is for medical emergencies, 112 is for the police, and 110 is for fire. Now here is a super fascinating and critical detail. If the accident happens inside a tunnel, try to use the emergency phones mounted on the tunnel walls instead of your cell phone. Why? Because picking up those specific tunnel phones automatically and instantly alerts the Norwegian Public Roads Administration, Statens Vegvesen, to your exact location. This allows them to immediately close the tunnel to oncoming traffic. It's a total game changer.
While someone else is making those calls, you need to step up and handle crowd control. You must absolutely prevent anyone from smoking or using open flames near the site. I know it sounds crazy obvious, but in a highly stressful situation, a totally frazzled bystander might just light a cigarette to calm their nerves, completely ignoring the pool of leaking fuel right next to them on the asphalt. Another big thing, lots of modern cars have this e-call system that automatically calls the emergency center when a crash happens. Do not assume that robot call is enough. You still need to make a manual call so you can give the operators real-time, specific details about how many people are hurt and what specific hazards are on the ground right now.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Moving the Vehicles.
Here is where you face a pretty critical decision. Do you preserve the scene for a police investigation, or do you clear the road? Well, you're likely going to face one of 2 very different scenarios. First, if it's just minor material damage, a fender bender, and absolutely no one is hurt, Norwegian regulations say you should move those vehicles out of the way, to a shoulder or a parking lot, as quickly as possible so you aren't blocking traffic. If it's safe, snap a few quick photos of the car's positions before you move them. However, if there are serious personal injuries, or worse, a fatality, you must not move the vehicles at all. The police are going to need to conduct a highly detailed technical investigation of that exact scene. In this scenario, your only job is securing the area with your triangles, wearing your vest, and giving first aid until the pros get there.
Now, of course, there's one major exception to this strict do not move rule, and it's super important to understand. If a vehicle is blocking a lane and it absolutely must be moved to directly save a life or to prevent a much larger catastrophe, like a massive high-speed pileup, then yes, you move it. Saving a human life will always take priority over preserving technical evidence. Just do your absolute best to make a mental note of where the cars originally were before you start moving things around.
To really tie this whole explainer together, we have to go right back to the first rule of rescue. Sure, a car's hazard lights are a great temporary way to communicate. But in a bad accident, the battery is probably going to fail, or the lights themselves might be completely crushed. That is exactly why physically placing your reflective triangle and wearing your high-visibility vest are your absolute most reliable tools. Always prioritize your own visibility. Think about it. If you run out into the dark to help without a vest on and you get hit by a passing car, you've just instantly become another victim. Now the paramedics have to treat you too, which actively drains the life-saving resources away from the original victims. You literally help no one if you don't secure yourself first.
So, we've covered a lot. The legal duty to act, the physical steps to secure your own car, the exact math behind deploying that warning triangle, and how to manage the absolute chaos of bystanders and wrecked vehicles. Which really just leaves us with one final, incredibly critical question. If you witnessed a crash today on your drive home, are you ready to take control? By keeping this mental checklist sharp, you really do have the power to step into the chaos, bring order, and potentially save lives. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, stay safe out there on the roads.